Raining outside, I don't have a garage, so today I have the Prelude rear bumper in my living room, and I'm gonna go ahead and attempt to actually install these guys. Actually, I'll just put it down. So I've got a couple rear bumper valences that I pulled out of the pick apart, pull apart, whatever it is. I got these a long time ago and I never ended up installing them. So I did take the rear bumper off, one, to check the damages from when that lady rear-ended me, and two, to make my life easier putting this on. But essentially how this is gonna work, so sorry for not explaining, the bumper is flipped over, so this is actually the bottom. For example, like this is where the exhaust cutout is, but these pieces here are gonna go on the ends, kind of like that. And then this piece here, the skinny one, is gonna go in the middle, and then lastly the one goes over here on this corner. But as you can tell, it is way too long and totally does not line up with the bumper. That is because it's off a 1994 Honda Accord. So a lot of guys do this conversion just because there's little to no aero kits for the Prelude, but I'm gonna go ahead and run over to the hardware store, get some nuts and bolts and washers and all that good stuff we need to fit this on there, and then we should be able to make this rear bumper look a lot better. Once I get the rear bumper put back on and put together, the side skirt's on, the front lip is already on, and the wheels, everything will look a lot better and make a lot more sense. But speaking of wheels, look what came in today. We got the Federal 595s. I am running a 215 40 17 on the rear, 205 40 17 on the fronts. So it's gonna be more of a mild stretch, but definitely still stretch. And I've heard good things about the Federals, especially the 595, so I'm excited to get these put on. So let's grab some keys and we will go head over to the hardware store and pick up some hardware. Peace. Actually, here's the Prelude. So I obviously already took the rear bumper off. It was actually really simple. There were 3 screws, 1, 2, and 3. And then there were 2 basically on the inside of the trunk, one right here, one right there, and then one down here, and that was it. These were actually the biggest pain to get off, were the license plate lights. It was intensely hard to get these unplugged, but they finally came out. And happy to say, actually, the bash bar, the rear bumper, and actually all the clips all look pretty okay. So I'm really surprised after that lady rear-ended the Prelude not that long ago. But everything seems to be in order, so we should be good to put it back on. Oh, check this out. This was in my bumper. Look at that. Straight up like honeybees? I don't know, wasps? Go ahead and take the beast. All right, so I just grabbed these. I think that should give me a nice variation of screws to work with. So what I'm planning to do is use these smaller ones for the generally straight areas, and then on the tighter curves, I'm gonna use these bigger bolts here to actually adhere the lip to the bumper. I think that'll work pretty good. So let's go toss these on. I think I've got everything I need. We've got the hardware, the drill bits, and these are flatheads, so flathead. I think what I'm going to do first is start by just cleaning up this entire face right here that I'll be mounting to. Real quick, just giving these a wipe down because they're used and about 20 years old. So we'll do that and then we'll get to mounting.
A few moments later.
Everything's cleaned up. This is how this is going to work. So this goes here, and my goal here is to basically line up this line, I'm trying to use one hand here, this line on the end with the exhaust cutout. So you can kind of tell what I'm trying to say there, but it's going to be pretty even, and then I'm just going to start bolting it. Basically what I'm going to end up doing is I'm not going to use this. This is the factory lower bumper bolt here. I'm not going to use that. I want to actually just keep that for the bumper. So I'm going to drill a hole probably right on this corner, probably 2 bolts here, and then maybe even 2 on the corner, because it's a very tight pull, because again, this isn't for this bumper, so it's really kind of stretched out there. You can see how much that angles out. So again, 1 here, 2 here, 2 here, and then probably 1 every few inches on this side. And then that will be the first portion. Then we'll go ahead and line up the second corner, and then we'll finally fit that middle piece. All right, no going back. All right, quick update. So I've got 2 screws in, the first one that you guys saw, and just so this is easier for you guys because I just figured this out, is this first one, you can basically see the screw head because this is cut out up top here. So it's okay to drive the bolt in this way and then put the nut right here. But for the remainder, it's going to be really, really hard because of this lip here to obviously get a drill in this way. So I flipped the bumper over and was drilling this way, which again is difficult because you really have to make sure you have it exactly how you want it. It does make life a lot easier when you're trying to put the screw this way and then the bolt here, because obviously you're not going to be able to put it that way and that's not going to work. So just a little tip. Here's a closer look now that we've got the corner wrapped. So it's pretty much bolted down to about here. It's not perfect. You can definitely tell like there's, actually, you know what? I'm just kind of a perfectionist. That's pretty close. So now we just need to kind of suck this part in and follow this line down here. And then we'll end up cutting the excess off and this side will be all done. I need to put the coffee down and I need a beer because this is just, it's difficult and it's tedious, I guess is the best way to put it. But I got the first one on, so let's go ahead and check it out. I think it lines up pretty well there and the corner doesn't look too bad. There's a little more overhang on this side than I would like. Yeah, I think that kind of shows it, but I really didn't want to bend this corner too much because it's really pushing this up like that, and even this is pushing up like that because it's at such a tight angle. So this one is all done. All that is left is to cut off this excess, but I'm not really sure how I want to cut this yet. I could just cut it, you know, right at the end and make a line here and then go all the way up and then cut this off. But if you're looking at the wheel, and I know this is hard to understand without the bumper being on the car, but if you're looking into the wheel well, you're just going to see this empty gap here, whereas obviously this has an end piece. So two options that I see, three options actually. One, cut it and just leave it. Two, cut a little bit past, maybe like an inch, and cut it here, and then try and use this pink hair dryer to heat it up and fold it over and somehow glue it on. I tried doing that with the front lip and it really didn't work, mainly because the glue, it wasn't strong enough to really hold all that tension, and I don't have like an actual heat gun to really almost get to the point of melting the plastic where it can actually fold and then dry and cool in that position. So I'm not sure what I'm gonna do yet. I think I'm gonna save that until I get to the end. But option three is I cut this end piece off, cut my line here right at the end, and then somehow try and glue this right onto it. I think that's what I'll probably end up doing, and if it doesn't work, then I'm just going to run it without anything there and do option number one. But I think that's probably going to be my best bet because I don't think bending it and folding it is going to look that good. So let's go ahead and jump to this side, replicate that, and then we can move on to this centerpiece. So now I'm getting to the corner on this one, and I wanted to actually just show you guys what my setup was for screws because I feel like this is pretty helpful. So I did one here on the end, right past this piece that I didn't use that some people recommend using. Please focus. So one screw right here to the left of this piece. And then I didn't do anything until we get to the corner. So one on this little lip right here, which it extends out a little bit further than this. And then one on the next rivet, one on this corner, one here. And that pretty much secures that whole corner there. One in the middle, one on the end. Does anyone else use a Canon G7X Mark II and is familiar with the settings? Because I don't know, maybe if just the camera sucks, but it can never focus. Especially when you're doing minuscule things or things like bolts. It just takes ages to focus, and usually I have to stop recording, focus it, and then record again. So any camera gurus out there, please put it down in the comments. Really helpful. Yo, new day, and I did not finish the entire rear bumper last night, but I did get the second piece on, and all that is left to do is cut off the excess and do that centerpiece. So let me show you how this one came out. It's not bad. The corner is just so hard to like bend this. I'm wondering if you make like a relief cut right here to relieve some of that pressure that's forcing it to bend back out this way. I'm wondering if that would help, but I'm just gonna leave it right now. It's not bad. There's a little bit of overhang here than I'd like, again because of this corner, but it's on there, and I think it's now kind of starting to come together a little bit. So let's go ahead and fit this centerpiece, and I'll save cutting the ends off until the end. Alright, all done. It is pretty much finished. So I got the centerpiece on here, and now you guys can actually get a full look at this. So now you can see how much of a lip that adds to the back end, and how much kind of just dynamic. I mean, I know the bumper is still upside down, but I think you guys get the picture. So this centerpiece is all set and done. This is kind of how this came out. It's not perfect. I might sand this down a little bit and give it some more angle, maybe like that, so it kind of mimics this line going that way. But if we come over here to the sides, you can see how much excess is still on here. So what I need to do is cut this off, and then also cut off this end piece so I can later on glue it on there. And speaking of glue for plastic, I was actually trying to fix vacuum lines the other day on the Prelude, and I broke off this tiny little piece of plastic that one of the vacuum lines hooks up to. So I spent like hours at Home Depot trying to find, and I tried a few different options of glues, super glue, adhesive. I finally ended up going with like an ABS cement, and even that didn't really work. So if you guys have any recommendations on like really strong adhesive or plastic cement or plastic like Bondo type stuff, let me know. Put it down in the comments. I would definitely make use of that. Got it. Check it out. So that's how I ended up cutting it. This was the piece that came off like so. Yeah, so don't need that. This end cap, what I was talking about is gluing it to this face here, and it should kind of sit like that. Obviously I need to sand that down so it sits nice and flush, but you get the picture, and then it gives it a nice end cap so it's not just like that. Got everything outside. So let me show you actually how easy it was to get the rear bumper off. So here I have basically every bolt that came off of it. You guys can ignore those because those are for the license plates, but this is pretty much everything. So you've got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 or 14 screws, because I think I'm missing one of these, but 13 screws, pretty easy. So I'll show you guys kind of how you put it back on. The screws on the side go right here, 1, 2, 3, and then there's room for a fourth one actually on the bumper. And then you have one bolt, which I was actually missing. So the one that was still on there goes right here. I'd imagine the one I'm missing goes right here. And if you open up the trunk, you will see a really messy trunk. But also the other bolts that you're gonna pull out come right here. One on each side. So that's pretty much it. Honestly, all in all, it's probably one of the easiest bumpers I've ever taken off, so hopefully getting it back on should be pretty straightforward. I'm excited to put it on and have you guys be able to see what it looks like now that it's kind of all put together. And I got a good start on the day today, so I'm hoping we can actually put the side skirts on. So maybe we'll go make a trip to the storage unit, pick those up, come back, throw those on, body kit will be complete. So let's get this rear bumper back on. Alright guys, bumper is back on. You guys ready to see it? So it looks good. I think once the side skirts are on, it will look a lot better, but here it is. Oh, you probably can't even see that. So much contrast going on the camera right now with the sun. Maybe that's a better angle. Yeah, it's so shady over here and the sun's so bright. You probably can't even see it, but I think it looks good. It just adds a next, like, another tier to the bumper. It makes it look a little bit more boxy, makes it look a little bit more like a sports car. But it's beautiful out, and I've got the whole day ahead of me, so I'm going to go over to the storage unit, pick up those side skirts, see if we can maybe even get that done today, so that way when the wheels go on, body kit's all set and we're good to go. Let's clean up and we'll go over to the storage unit. I emptied everything that was in my glove box, just like all this miscellaneous crap, zip ties, like all sorts of Prelude parts. We got badges, Honda, all sorts of screws that I've found around the car. Need to organize all this. See if she starts up first try though. Money? Money. Oh, no. Too soon. Too soon, Junior. There she is. Do you guys ever wonder, like, are we a different breed as enthusiasts? Like, honestly, we look at cars in an entirely different way than most people. 90% of the world just drives a stock car and is totally happy with it. So, I don't know, I was just thinking about that. Do we, like, expect more out of our cars? Let me know. Alright, so I just got to the storage unit. Let's go inside, grab the side skirts. Actually, I've taken you guys in here many times. I'll save you the time and watching. So I'll just go grab the side skirts and I'll meet you guys back in the car when I have them. Alright, here, now that the sun is not blaring on the car, I think that gives you a better idea of what it looks like. So it just adds that extra lip on the bottom, gives it more of an angle, and it actually looks super dope with the stock Prelude spoiler that I hope to find soon. If anyone knows where I can find one that's in good shape, please let me know. But for now, this is how it looks. I think it's pretty sick, to be honest. Like, especially for it not even belonging for this car or on this car, it's really not that bad. And like the cutout with the exhaust, I think works really well. Like I said, I want to kind of angle this a little bit so it kind of slants in just a little bit and finishes that exhaust look, but even that looks much better. I'm actually really thrilled. And once we get the new wheels on and that hella poke going on, it's gonna look sick. All right, back home now. I had to put a hoodie on because it's actually not nearly as warm as it was when I left. And by the way, guys, new merch. You're not gonna be seeing this logo anymore. Actually, the new merch should be here this week, so I'm very much excited. And I don't even want to call it merch because merch just makes it sound like it's something I'm trying to make money on, and it's not. It's something that I put a lot of hard work into designing. I hand designed all the logos, designed how I wanted them to look on the apparel and all that stuff. So stay tuned for that because it's gonna be lit. But for now, I've got each side skirt. I just kind of like mounted that one up real quick and saw what it would look like. It's definitely gonna look good. But here's the thing. So I need to basically cut off all of this excess plastic. Like, I'm basically gonna go to these support brackets. I'm just gonna cut a line underneath them like that, all the way down. And then we'll also have to cut off a lot of this excess and do the same thing where I cut off the cap and hopefully glue it back on. So, speaking of which, I finally found something that should work. I'm actually using a JB Weld plastic bonder. So this should actually work, and it does dry in black. So that's awesome. I'm hoping this will work to get those caps mounted and the caps mounted on the side skirts. May as well show you what else I picked up. So we've got some trim and bumper paint that I'm gonna actually do all of this in. So I may or may not paint these before I install them. If not, I'll just tape it while it's on the car and mask it off and do it on the car. But I want to do the side skirts. I want to do all of these trim pieces around the car because actually this is a good time of day to show you. So you can tell this is almost like bluish, and this is like a light gray, and then it goes back to that bluish color, and it just doesn't really look good. So what I want to do is paint all this trim and the new bumper pieces, side skirts, everything, so that way it all matches. Primer as well, definitely gonna need that. And last but not least, I picked up a bunch of self-tapping screws and some washers, which is what I'm gonna be using to actually mount this to the car. Red Bull too, because I'm working hard today. All right, let's start by cutting up with these jank shears, cutting off the excess, and we'll see how it looks, and then cut off the extra towards the wheel well. All right, like 2 hours later, I got the first one done. Here's how it looks. This is the pile of crap I had to take off of it. So I actually may end up going back and taking even more off because, like I said before, I wanted to get it almost to here, but we'll see if this will work or if it will hang too low. And then I also went ahead and just cut off the end cap that I'm hoping to reuse. So we'll set that aside and start to, I guess, line this up and see how long it needs to be, and then cut off the excess here so it doesn't reach into the wheel well. Great to have a second pair of hands today, but I think I'm just gonna go grab my buddy masking tape and make this happen. All right, here's a little example of how it will look. So you can see there's about 5-6 inches excess on that side, and then you can actually see I definitely need to cut more of this bottom piece off because it's going to hang far too low. Even though it's not screwed up yet, it's still going to be hanging too low, so I'm going to have to cut more there. And right now I'm just trying to line up this end piece here and figure out where my line is that I need to cut off. All right, quick update. So I have got the end cap actually sitting on there. I use this JB Weld, pretty nasty stuff, but it should do the job. It's already starting to adhere, which that glue that I had tried before was not even coming close. So this should work pretty well, and it's sandable, so I can actually afterwards, once it's dry, sand it down so it's nice and smooth, and then it's ready for paint. So that one is basically all done, and I can pretty much get started on this other side skirt, and while that dries, and then we can come back to it, get it mounted, and we should be good. All right, like 2 more hours later, here is how the end cap dried and everything. It actually looks pretty damn good. Not gonna lie, for just a DIY and some JB Weld, you can still see the weld a little bit here, so I'm gonna sand it. It's still a little tacky. I've sanded it a little bit, but I'll sand it again before we paint it. And then I'm gonna take the acetone and wipe down this entire side skirt. Same with that one. Soap and water, clean it all up, and then we'll go ahead and primer it and paint it. All right, spray paint ready to go. I've got the 2 side skirts all cleaned up, ready to be painted. So I'm gonna do probably 1, maybe 2 coats of primer, and then we'll do the flat black afterwards. So yeah, let's get to spraying. So primer is pretty much done. You want to actually apply the top coat within either an hour of putting the primer on, or you have to wait 24 hours. So it's been about 10-15 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and put the first coat of this on. It's a Rust-Oleum bumper and trim paint, so hopefully it looks good. First coat of the color is on, and there's only about 70% coverage. I'm going to do about 3 coats of this, so it's just going to dry for a couple minutes, and then we'll go ahead and put on the second coat. Coat number 2 is done, about 90% coverage.